This is Campbell McCreary from Amvest Capital in New York. Welcome to our live webinar. Today's Thursday, May 11th, 2023. We have with us today Scottie Resources Corp. Scottie trades on the venture as SCOT and on the OTCQB as SCTSF. And for those of you in Germany, SR8. So I hope you'll enjoy today's program. We'll be available in on-demand replay about 2 hours after we wrap up. The original link that you got or you found or someone sent you will work for the on-demand replay. We'll send the link again to you anyway a few hours after we wrap up here. But you can also go to amvestcapital.com and there's a page for webinars and replays and stuff. So quite easy there. And a few things that are important is Q&A and getting your feedback. So here is where you can type in a question, send it in. Only we see the questions, so anonymous on that point. And if you like what you're seeing right now, you can share the event in some social media posts while we're talking here, and also in an email that you can shoot over to a buddy. At the end of the show, please share your feedback. You can only go to that once, so go there, type it in, and then also you can type it in the follow-up email as well. There's a plot there to send your commentary in. Of course, New York-based specialist investment management corporate finance firm based solely in the natural resource sector. Life's full of disclaimers, including mine. This call is most definitely, absolutely, positively for informational purposes only, and is in no way a solicitation to offer, buy, or sell securities, much less a rating or an opinion. So we're all presenting here today. Pleased to have with us today Brad Rourke, the CEO and director and president of Scottie, and by his side, Tom Munford, the vice president of exploration. So gentlemen, take us through the story, 15, 20 minutes or whatever you need, but keep it light, keep it fast paced so we can get to the Q&A and we can ask some of the great questions. So there we go. Slide and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you, Campbell. Appreciate giving us this opportunity. My name is Brad Rourke, and I'm the president CEO of Scottie Resources. We're an exploration company looking mostly for gold at this moment in northwest British Columbia in a place called the Golden Triangle. I assume everybody watching these things will know where the Golden Triangle is because there's only really gold bug type people looking at this. So of course I'll be making forward-looking statements as you do with these junior exploration companies. So what I want to accomplish in this introductory presentation is kind of that we check all the boxes that one would want to have checked if you're going to wade into the high-risk world of exploration. And what we're going to go through in this presentation is we're located in the right jurisdiction. That's an important box to check. Infrastructure is something that one needs to understand. It's not a hard stop, but infrastructure is something that can make or break a project. A commanding land position. I think back in the early days, it was really easy. You could have a small postage stamp, get a good drill hole, and make something work. But I mean, it is challenging to be in this, or the industry's evolving. And I think a district scale land package is something that's more important today than perhaps it was 10, 15 years ago. And you have the right team. And after we check all those boxes, we'll speak a little about the geology. And I think whether you're looking at Scottie or anything else, those are 5 items and 6 items with the geology that you should understand. And so let's go through that. So as stated, we an exploration company in northwest British Columbia, the Golden Triangle. The Golden Triangle is well known and has been for a long time. In fact, I was part of the Eskay Creek staking rush. I slept 100 days at Bronson Slope, which is the Snip mine. So I know the area quite well. I was lucky enough, I staked Kemess. as an agent for Bob Dickinson at Hunter Dickinson, or it was actually Rabagliati that was running that program at the time. So I know the area well and spent half my adult life in a little town called Smithers close by. But what I find interesting and different and maybe unique over the last 30 years is that even when SK and SNP was happening, we never seen this big buy-in from the majors or the top tier majors. Of course, Barrick went into the SK at not initially, but what we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years to note is just the amount of bigger entities setting roots in the Golden Triangle. And I think that, with the Newcrest, the $3.5 billion purchase of my neighbor, the Pretium assets, Bruce Jack Mine, but you have, you name it, Coryapoo in there. You have Newmont there buying the GT Gold assets, BHP. And so that is something unique and should give us all confidence that we're going to be there to explore for some time to come, especially when you put those big bets down. So that's a checkbox. We're in the right area. When we first started, I got involved in this project in 2016, and there's kind of two pieces of information that grabbed my attention. And I started just being an investor in this company, trying to help out some local guys because I'd since relocated back to Smithers. And was the past producing mine of Scottie Gold Mine. And I knew that they were just started the construction of the power line up to the Bruce Jack. And so there was this green hydropower line going right beside a old mine that produced a half ounce per ton in the 80s. And that was the two pieces of information that at first got me interested, but it's been a long road since then. It was only 400 hectares. And so we've done about a dozen transactions. And as you see, we've compiled a very, very nice land package, dominantly in the southern end of the Golden Triangle. It's not 100% contiguous, but those big land packages are efficient when you're trying to hold lands and do exploration. I like to point out all those little red dots that you see on our tenure. Those are all documented mineral occurrences. So there's a lot of anomalous gold there. And especially in the centerpiece, that whole piece of property has never really been owned by one entity. That was a patchwork of maybe 12 different owners 5-6 years ago. So again, we give that district scale land piece, but we're really going to talk about just what's up north where the blue mining icon is and talk about Scottie and Blueberry. But infrastructure, we lack nothing. As you can see, that is Scottie Gold to the right. That's how close the Bruce Jack power line is. We also have an all-season road just down that road or go up that photograph, and that's 40 kilometers down that road's the town of Stewart with deep water shipping facilities. We have a existing mine permit. It's a small mine permit. We're not going to go mining, but it does make us unique. And again, power and the town of Stewart to help support our exploration efforts. So we're really blessed for being in quite a remote place. But, we have a little bit of advantages over most people. This represents about 800 hectares of the 60,000 hectares. And this is the Scottie Gold Mine just center left here. And with that, we'll talk a little bit about geology, and I'll pass it over to Thomas. And then I'll finish off with, corporate deck or with the capital market page and the people involved. But with that, I'd like to introduce Thomas. Thomas has been with our program. This is his 6th year. And so he knows it very well. It's his models and his concepts that really brought this to the success that we're having. So with that, Thomas, I'll hand the baton over to you.
Great. Thanks, Brad. So really what we've got here is we've got both the Blueberry Zone, which we're advancing right now, and then we've got the historic Scottie Gold Mine. So like Brad said, I've been with the project about 6 years. When I first came into the project, the main focus of the company was on the historic Scottie Gold Mine, which is located on the left side of the screen there. Those 3 portals that are closest together, just center left of the screen, that's the main access to the historic mine. And the mill itself was built underground. It's about 150 meters into that lowermost portal entrance. Above that is the power plant, and then above that is the main access to the mine. And then the furthest portal to the left is the mine waste up on the cliff slope, but that's basically where the deposit itself is. And the deposit is a series of steeply dipping pyrrhotite pyrite-rich veins, very high-grade mineralization. They're basically running parallel to your screen, and there's multiple parallel ones going kind of north-south along there. And that's what produced in the 1980s. What we've also discovered since then is the Blueberry Contact Zone, which is about 2 kilometers away. And that's going to be the most of the heart of this conversation that we're going to have over the next little bit. But there's a few other things I can point out from this image here. One, you see the 2 red blobs on the screen. Those are the tailings ponds. So those were deposited in a lake when the mine operated in the 1980s. But since then, the lake has actually drained. So off screen, just down on the image, was a large glacier, and that's since pulled away, causing the whole lake bed to flush out and drain. So this was filled in the 80s, and now it's able to be accessed, which gives us a few upsides. One is there's an east-west continuity of the Scottie Gold Mine under the lake bed, or at least projected, that we're exploring for. We've got the Blueberry Contact Zone that goes under the lake bed, but the other is that those tailings are now exposed at surface. And we've taken about 115 samples from the tailings, and they average about 2.2 grams a ton in the tails, all the way up to 6 grams a ton. It's an interesting part of the story, but our main focus right now is on our Blueberry Contact Zone. And you can see the proximity to the roads in the area. Looking a little bit more detail at the Scottie Gold Mine itself, what we see here is an image of the underground workings in light blue projected to surface. You can see that most of the workings are associated with that bottom lowermost mineralized zone. That's what 95% of the production came from back in the 80s, which produced just under 100,000 ounces of high-grade gold. They had started producing out of the next zone up, which is called the O zone, just in the end of the mine life. Now, the mine only ran for about 4 years. And when it shut down, it didn't shut down because it had run out of ore. It was an economic decision to shut down the mine. In the 1980s, they'd taken out a loan to build this mine, $20 million facility with the Royal Bank of Canada, paying upwards of 22% interest on it. And that debt was crippling when the gold price rolled over from, say, 700 to 300 over that period. When they shut down the mine, they had about 2 years of reserves left at the mine in terms of production. So it was a small mine permit, 75,000 tons a year, and that mine permit still exists with the mine, so we still hold that. Now, that mine operated with a 10 gram per ton cutoff grade back in the 1980s. If you're looking at comparable mines in the jurisdiction now, you're looking at things that are more on the order of 3 grams a ton, like SCOT to the south of us or Brucejack up to the north of us. Now, with the 10 gram per ton cutoff and you drop it down to 3, you get a nice large mineralized halo around the ore body that was existing when the mine shut down. From that, we've added to additional resources by drilling out and around those zones. And this really was the focus for us for the first couple of years operating in the area. But over the last 2 or 3 years, we've really shifted focus to the Blueberry Zone, which has become substantially larger by an order of magnitude than what we've discovered at the Scottie Gold Mine. So I'm going to lead you through the Blueberry Contact Zone story, how we found it. It was a bit of a slow burn discovery, and where we're going to advance it to this year. So the Blueberry Contact Zone really was discovered in 2019. We had just 2,000 meters of drilling on 3 different targets that year. That was our first year's drilling as a company. 600 meters roughly went into the Blueberry Contact Zone and hit a nice hole on that, 7.5 grams over almost 35 meters. But it wasn't what we were targeting. It was a bit of luck associated with the discovery. And because we didn't understand what we had, we didn't realize its significance. We were up against a very high-grade vein, so we assumed that mineralization was associated with that. When we went back in 2020 to test it further, to understand what we had really hit, we came away with a new geological model that really showed a lot more upside than we were expecting for the area. In 2021, we went and validated that model with just under 5,000 meters of drilling and showed that it had substantial strike length. The grades were continuous along the structure, and they went down substantially down to 225 meters. Last year, we had our largest drill program yet, just under 16,000 meters of drilling on Blueberry. We're now at the point of expanding it, showing how potentially large it is. We doubled the strike length, we pushed it down to 400 meters, and now we've really established that this is a substantial system, something that people weren't expecting possible in the area. Now we're looking at advancement. So this year we're planning 20,000 meters of total drilling, of which 17,000 will be allocated just to the Blueberry Contact Zone. We've got more strike length to add, and we'll push this structure down deeper at depth. And I'll walk you through how this all looks together. So in 2019, we were targeting a single vein that outcrops at surface. It's called the Blueberry Vein. It's been known about since the late 1970s. Strikes to the northeast and it dips at about 50 degrees to the northwest. We were drilling this hole to intersect that vein downhole, but before we hit the vein with that drill hole, there was a zone of what looked like weaker mineralization. It was interesting. It didn't look particularly fascinating, but we sampled the entire length of the hole. And now this was the first year that COVID kind of impacted the labs. We were very delayed getting the first results back, so we were back home before we actually received the assays. But it ended up running 7.5 over almost 35 meters. But we didn't really understand what we had hit because it wasn't the vein that we were targeting. So in 2020, we went in and drilled in and around that vein. We took small step outs, 25 to 50 meters away, trying to understand what that mineralization was related to, where was it going, what was the cause for it. And we came away with a new concept that, there's a lot of north-south structures in the area, and there seemed to be one that was running right around where the mineralization was, which is a contact between two rock types. One is a volcanic rock, an andesite, on the left-hand side of the screen, and the other is a siltstone on the right-hand side. Now, the andesite is well known in the area to host mineralization. It's what the entire Scottie Gold Mine is hosted in. But the siltstone's kind of a dead rock for the area. But it was right along that contact, mostly in the andesite, but a little bit in the siltstone, that this mineralization was focused. So we took that, came up with the idea that it was the contact that was controlling the mineralization and that the vein was related to that instead of the other way around, and went to the north and went to the south to where we knew exactly where that contact was. We went to where the road cut, so we could actually put our finger on the contact, both to the north and the south of this, and then we went and drilled those. So that was in 2021 when we drilled those two targets, to the north and the south, and anywhere else where we could actually go on the ground and find out exactly where that contact was. And this proved to be extremely successful. Up at the north end there, that highest grade intercept of 34 grams over almost 12 meters, that's just 30 meters from surface. That's done with a skid rig drilling off of a road cut off the outside of the road there. And this is a road that's been driven on for the past 50 years, people driving over to this high grade mineralization. And then to the south, a similar width structure with 4 grams over almost 12 meters, and that's about 25 meters from surface as well. So a lot of high grade mineralization near surface, and we're getting quite a bit of strike length out of the system. So last year in 2022, we said, how far can we go with this? Let's go to the north, let's go to the south, and let's push this down at depth. So with that, we stepped out a little bit. To the north, we knew we were going to run out of room because we had a fault it's very evident on geophysical surveys as well as in regional mapping. But we didn't know if it was 50 meters away or 150 meters away. So we extended north a little bit further until we crossed over that fault, which is a post-mineral fault, and it does truncate mineralization to the north. But I will come back to that later because it is a fault that's had some offset, and we have an idea of where the offset is. Down to the south, we covered those first 700 meters of strike length, and then we lose the contact. We don't see the contact with the rocks because we go under the historic lake bed, so we're just covered in a lot of lake bed sediments, but we pick the contact up on the other side of the lake shore. So that's where we drilled. So we drilled where we had the contact, and we went down to the south to establish if mineralization went further to the south. And we had very successful results drilling just a few limited holes. I think there's 6 holes that crossed that contact there, and some bonanza grade numbers came out of that. Our furthest hole south was 7 meters over 6 grams. So this thing is open to the south, and I'll talk even more about that in a bit, but that is another 600 meters of extension possibilities that we have for that structure. If we look in long section, so if we go underground, we look from the west to the east, we can see what the drilling's showing us. So here's a long section. This is a graded contour model. So this is grams per tons times the meters. So that gives you an idea of the thicknesses and the grades that we're seeing across the structure and how closely spaced these holes are. So this entire thing is about 1.55 kilometers in strike length from the furthest drill hole to the north to the furthest one to the south. And the spacing between most of these holes is substantial. We're looking at 60 to 100 meters on most of these. We are not pursuing a resource at the time. We are very focused on expansion and showing how big this system is. You can also notice that there's some gaps. So that one in the middle is right where the lake bed is. We had no geological control at the top of that gap at the start of last season. Now that we know we have mineralization on either side, it's quite easy to then justify going in and drilling holes in under that lake bed. It's a bit of a blind target, but we have much better controls on it now. We've also got great controls on going down deeper at depth. We've got a really good understanding of the system, and we can also push things along quite a bit further to the south because it's entirely open to the south as well. Our goal for this season is to push down the depth of the structure down to about 500 meters, where we're already at 400 meters, and then go along strike down to the south with the 17,000 meters allocated to Blueberry this year. Looking at some of our other targets in the area, so I spoke about that southern target that we have. We did do geophysics over top of that area. That'd be number 3 on this picture here. So we did ground-based geophysics using horizontal loop EM technology to understand where the contact goes to the south. And we've traced out where it crosses the road down to the south, right around where the Newcrest property boundary is. And that gives us another 600 meters of strike length, taking the total strike length of the system to around 2.1 kilometers. We'll follow up with Blueberry with the controls at depth and filling large gaps in the system. And then we've also got the Scottie Gold Mine down to the southeast or southwest of this. We've done geophysics over the area. We've done downhole EM as well as horizontal loop EM at surface at Scottie, and we've identified a new target. It's a blind target. We've plate modeled it and pretty confident on the drill target. So we'll be drill testing that this year. And then our most recent discovery has been the Stockwork zone, number 2 on this figure. It's up in the northeast corner of the figure. Now this is an area that's interesting. It's right where the projected fault offset is for the north end of the Blueberry system. You can see that area with the white or yellow line dashed with the question marks. The contact is a little bit more complicated. It doesn't go simply from andesite into siltstone there. There's an intrusion that complicates that. It exploits the same structure. But the area is host to a very nice large soil anomaly. So gold and arsenic and a number of other elements are very highlighted right in that area where the Stockwork area is. We drilled a few holes in there last year, came away with some interesting results. One of the things that came away with was long holes of very low grade mineralization. So we're looking at 250-ish meters of 0.3 gold, which is anomalous for the area for sure. And a weak potassic overprint on much of it, which is kind of indicative of a potential porphyry system. But in addition to that, we also had a bit of a high grade intercept in that zone as well. So this will be a focus for drilling this year, both from the porphyry potential, but it's also understanding if there's some structures comparable to Blueberry that exist up in the Stockwork area. So with that, we'll be starting drilling in about 6 weeks' time, and we've got a fairly robust program with drilling, geophysics, as well as a lot of superficial work to coincide with that. And with that, I'll pass it back to Brad.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. So yeah, the people involved. Again, I'm Brad Rourke, President, CEO. Since 2016, I've been involved in the companies. When I took it over, I think it was worth $600,000. So we've grown the market cap, anyways. And you just got to meet Thomas. So glad to have Thomas. It's why we're being so successful. I'm really proud of this board that may or may not be unique, but I'd like to point out that nobody knew each other before the formation. I think that's unique. And I think I've been able to, I mean, now I've known, of course, some of these people, but none of these people knew each other. And so I think I've got a good mix of skill sets there where Ernie Mass, extremely well known. I'm sure if you're in the business, you might have known Ernie. He was COO of New Gold, built Cobre Panama. He's running a little junior now, so he hasn't been on the small side here. Doré Copper up in Chibougamau, Quebec, and interesting project there, but he's more of a C-suite kind of an executive. And then to balance Ernie off is John Williamson, he's a junior mining legend. Again, doesn't really need an introduction, but he has multiple discoveries under his belt and really gets to guide me through the weeds in the junior the market. So those two guys balance themselves out. Steve Stein, very successful. Started a company called Black Diamond Camps. I was a founding shareholder, lucky enough, but took it from a napkin to a $2 billion company, and he's an accredited board member. We just added Ellie Owens just recently, and Ellie's running a little company called E2 Gold, and it's been a challenging market, as we all know. But I've watched Ellie and how she operates the last few years, and the fact that she has a law degree and a geology degree. We're just really excited to add her and her perspective. Like, her and Thomas are the future of mining, so we're pleased to have that. Financials, my CFO comes from Redfern, which is the same shop that does K92 Mining, and Christina Body. I shared it with GT Gold. She's been around, keeps us in between the lines. We're really happy with the board. And then the capital structure page. So I self-funded this company up until about 2019. No one heard of us. It was 100% retail. Even though it's been a real challenging few years, we've kind of converted that retail to a really good list of stronger and intelligent shareholders. So I think we've done a heck of a job. And you see 265 million shares outstanding. Now, remember, it was just a 400 hectare company. We've had to use shares to take some of these acquisitions over. But when you look at the percentage of some really well-known names, it's flattering. And in fact, I don't have Ross Beatty led my last financing a couple of weeks ago. And so, you know, we do have the support of the intelligent end of the community, whether Commodity Discovery Fund, now Pan American Silver owns about 7% of us, but that's, I sold 9.9% to the Yamana. So that went over with the Yamana transaction. Gold 2000, Phoenix Gold Fund, coverage from Research Capital. Cormark is immediately coming out with coverage on us. US Global, but it's really been challenging, but we've been able to get the attention from those guys. So we think we're in good shape. We're sitting on, you know, $7.5 million cash now. So, you know, it's been challenging, but I think we seem to be doing good. And, you know, we have drills to be turning in about 5-6 weeks. And so it's going to be a really exciting time for Scottie. And yeah, we're happy to be here and love to take any questions.
Okay, right on. Sorry, tell me again, how did Pan American get in there?
Well, so Pan American just took over Yamana, right? The Yamana transaction. So those shares were transferred over from Yamana to Pan American, but independently. And Ross is gracious enough to say his name. He kind of led outside of Pan American.
Okay, so is that in stable hands, or could maybe someone else?
I mean, do you ever really know that? But yeah, I'm feeling very comfortable. So even with that 200, here's what makes me not worried. It's 15 or 14 phone calls because I'm one of the top 15. We own 58% of the stock, just with 15 phone calls. So it's a lot tighter than one might look at from a surface. And I got no pushback from anybody. Everyone's quite happy. And a lot of the buying in the stock right now are existing shareholders. And my financings year after year are a lot of the same people. So even though that share count's going up, I have a good collection of everybody maintaining their positions. In fact, it's just kind of 4 positions out of Switzerland. You know, they have 20% of the company with just 4 phone calls out of Switzerland alone. So that's, you know, it's, you know, everybody's happy. I mean, they're all frustrated with the market, but I do have the good support there. Yeah.
Looking at I guess it's slide 4, the Golden Triangle and where you are, and, you know, some great names around you, some great neighbors. To sort of help set the stage. I mean, I understand this part of the world, and one valley can be full of gold, and one valley can be copper gold, another valley can have nothing but rocks. So, and then, you know, it can be 5 miles as the crow flies, and it might be 100 miles to get there to your neighbor, kind of thing. So, well, you know, so what's the setup there? Are you kind of stuck in your own valley, or do you kind of lead into other properties there? How isolated are you, or are you part of a larger system? About your Newcrest, this be something logical for them? Is this a standalone? Are you a unique asset, or it looks a lot like what's in the area? You know, so a lot of questions built in there, but a little context would be good.
Sure. Well, that's like 5 questions. And so Thomas, if we're talking about regional geology, Thomas should speak. And you know, and Thomas, you can speak to the business side either. Why don't you answer?
I mean, it looks great, but it does, you know, for someone who knows the area, there's a lot more that this can tell. So fill us in.
Sure.
Yeah, I'll try to answer a few of those questions. So,
Yeah.
From a geological standpoint, yeah, there's some of the most amazing deposits on the earth in the Golden Triangle. You know, you've got world-class porphyry deposits, you've got VMS deposits, you've got you've got silica undersaturated porphyries, you've got calc-alkaline porphyries, you've got intrusion-related gold systems, all world-class deposit types. The two nearest neighbors to us would be, in terms of substantive size, would be Brucejack, which is an epithermal system. You've got SCOT, which is a bit of a more of a porphyry epithermal system. Just to the west of us, you've got the Grand Duke VMS deposit. There's some major regional geology that goes on in the Golden Triangle that kind of endows this area with such a metallogenic signature and potential. A lot of very deep crustal scale features. I think that's one of the big wins for us, is I think we're sitting on the same one that connects Ascot to us and likely continues all the way up north to the Brucejack area. Kind of a deep-seated plumbing system for the fluids and the magmas to come up to generate these deposits. Is kind of it's a deeper system that's kind of endowed this area. When you look at what you're mentioning about the infrastructure, and maybe as a crow flies it's 5 kilometers, but to get there it's 40 or 50 kilometers. The road already goes to Blueberry. Blueberry is, we are skid-based drilling, so we're not using a helicopter by and large. So quite a bit cheaper. We're dragging the drills around with a bulldozer. We drive to site. That drops the cost dramatically from an exploration point of view, but even more so when you get into mining. You don't have to build that road at tens of millions of dollars per kilometer through rugged terrain. On the way to get to our site, we actually cross right in front of Ascot's premier mill. So, that's halfway our drive to Scottie is passing by the mill. So the infrastructure there.
Do you want to visit your buddy at Brucejack? How long does it take when you jump into your car?
So in my car, I would drive down
office to office. Yeah.
So if I drive down to Stewart, I've got to drive down to Stewart, and then I would jump into one of their haul trucks, because Brucejack actually ships their concentrate out of the town of Stewart. So then their haul trucks go back all the way empty back up to the Brucejack mine. So it's a bit of a leg around, but the trucks are already going there empty on a daily basis.
As the crow flies, we're like 20 kilometers, less than 20 kilometers to Brucejack. But if you're to drive from Scottie to Brucejack, take you 2.5 hours for sure. So
okay,
it's just, but Ascot it's just 18 kilometers on the same road. We're really the only two operators. Although Ken Conklin's now on the road with the Gold Storm, so he's going to be drilling just north of us. So it's good to have Ken up in the area.
So you joined the company, Brad, and you visit investors, some of these cool European investors, and is the sell. I've got the next Brucejack. I've got I'm the next Pretium 2.0. Is that the hot thing that we're all looking for, or you've got this bit something unique that you're uncovering?
Well, I mean, that's the story we all want to spin, but I think we've been pretty consistent. Try not to overplay our hand, and up until 4 months ago, if you go back to any video I've ever done is on our website. The most egregious we've had is just said, we want to show a pathway to 1 million high-grade ounces. I can look you dead in the eye right now going, we're targeting 2 million ounces, and just give me 8 more months, because now we're on to something. So I think that story now is going to evolve, and I'm going to try and really, really get aggressive with just showing people, other things. Both mills on either side of us, they both have about 8-year, 9-year life, which is great. But that just might not be enough, or who knows. And so those potentials are there. But I mean, what if we're 2 million ounces? That's that also could be standalone for a lot of people.
That'd be a nice project.
Considering, so right now, all we know is we're at the bottom of the market. Now's not the time to be too aggressive to try and sell anything. Thomas has he's got a discovery, which I think he'll win an award. We need a lot more meters into it, and Mother Nature could teach us a whole bunch of things, as it always does. But it is exciting. So we're happy to be here at this stage. We wouldn't want to sell at the bottom of the market and I'm only, because those 15 people, we own damn near 60% of the company. It's not because what I say. I mean, I truly run it via the board, and you know, it's really easy for me to gauge what the shareholders want to do. But right now, they keep investing, they keep putting money into financings, they're happy. So we'll just go with what our partners want at this moment, and you know, the future's bright.
Yeah.
I think, you know, a lot where the phone's ringing a little bit more than it has been, so that's good.
Drained lake bed. So that sounds like something interesting. What that means, there is a lake dammed up. Something's dammed up somewhere. Did the lake move? Did you drain it?
Well, I'll talk about. I'll answer this, Thomas. Normally, I'd let Thomas. So
you
just
have a permit for that. What does that mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I just want to say this fancy word that I never try and say, and Thomas always nails it. So just off to the left of the screen, there's a large glacier. Now, obviously, glacial recession's happening in the area. Gives a whole bunch of new rocks for geologists to look like. But what it did, and I believe it's 1989. Up until then, that lake filled up and drained out a little bit on the Yuckalop, and you know, the glacier would float, would kind of drain out a bit and then settle. But in 1989, that it's been continuously draining ever since. Okay, so again, which brings great exploration potential on the lake bed. And we're talking about the Blueberry Zone, but we still have these east-west veins, the M zone and stuff that, you know, could technically go across the bottom of the lake. We're just getting to it. So
there's no lake that's going to go coming back.
Yeah. It just so happened, you know, Mother Nature drained it, but it really has opened up all the Blueberry Zone's going right along that lake bed. So, and as you can see, there's roads. We've been driving on that for 30 years, right? On the lake bed now. Yeah. Not
necessarily encouraging you to do this, but people will ask, well, when are you going to get a resource? So, timeline for that. You got a lot of drills. When do you stop? Will you stop? What's it going to look like the next so many months?
Okay. So even last year, our drilling, we just did a diamond pattern 100 meter for the most part, right under that structure, because we always have resource in mind, right? In our minds, just one in the middle of the diamond, we're going to get us to the inferred category. But we haven't found the depth. I mean, we found an end on the north, but I mean, we're still wide open. We still haven't gone anywhere near depth, and depth is really exciting for us. So we are always drilling if the market demanded us to have a resource. Now, what we don't talk about is, sure, we're going to do 20,000 meters this year. It's a shame because we have easy 50,000 meters in targeting, but because the market is such that it's just too expensive to kind of go do that drilling. You know, I did at the beginning of the year kind of go, okay, we had 6 drills. I mean, we could put it on there. So I think we can't control the market. So we had to find that balance. And again, we talked to our partners. You know, we don't want to just sit back. We want to be aggressive, but not dilute anybody too much. And again, you know, the money was, a lot of that money was coming from existing shareholders. So they had some input. Again, in our drilling, even this year, is all with that resource in mind. But until we know what the size is, we don't see any need to. And I don't think, you know, as the market is right now, I come out of resource, they'll cap me at that, even if I'm finding more. And then we see that with other stories. Yeah.
Do you also do metallurgical testing to see if Blueberry's material can also be processed at Ascot's or Brucejack's mine? Great question.
Sure. I'll let Thomas answer that. We've got a great answer for that one.
Yeah, so the Scottie Gold Mine, obviously past producer, we have a pretty good control on what its recovery was, and they used a cyanide leach system for that, which is comparable to what Ascot uses. And the ore style that we see at Scottie is very comparable to much of the ore that we see at Blueberry. But just to rule it out or confirm that, we just submitted a metallurgical sample from just the Blueberry ore, a composite sample in, I think, February this year. And we had it running through both Brucejack's flow sheet and Ascot's flow sheet to understand what the recoveries would be through either mill. Given that Brucejack is a gravity flotation system and Ascot's is a leach setup. Preliminary results are really good. We're just doing continuous tests on it right now, but I think in the next couple months we'll be releasing the final results from that metallurgical work. But it's we've got great recoveries on that. It's not a concern.
Okay. Is it fair to say you have a specific goal in terms of a mineral resource estimation, or let's just hold our tongue and let's see where the drilling takes us?
I'll answer that question.
Yeah.
I'll answer that question because the geologist will never color outside the lines. I think, we always have to be wary of what we say, just so we fall in and don't stretch the truth too much. But again, I think I already said that, Campbell. We were hoping to show a pathway to 1 million ounces. We're targeting 2 million because remember, Scottie Gold Mine has certainly some value there. And we're not even talking about our Georgia River project, of which, we've drilled for 2 seasons, and it's great. It's just we don't want to confuse people. So I think, it is totally reasonable for us to go, hey, 2 million ounces of high grade is available. We got a little bit of work to get there, but I don't think anyone technically would argue that is flexing your muscles too much. Or we'd love to have those discussions, but that's where we're at now. Now, on the big dream of things, what if we take this down to 500 meters and, Blueberry right now, 15% of our holes are 100 gram meters and above. That's extraordinary, especially when you know that they're spaced out at the intervals that they are. So even though you look at this map, every one of those black dots are all the pierce points, and you're looking at it in 2D. So when you go, oh, those are close together, it just simply is not. And if anybody's really interested in, and it really has a technical, please get in touch with us. We can go sit on Micromine. It won't work on this platform, but I mean, we'd love to show you the model. And so we're really excited. But right now, I think, that's pretty aggressive for me to say we're targeting 2 million, but that's what we're going to go for. I don't think we'll validate that. And again, drills are turning in about 5-6 weeks, so it's not going to be long.
Could you possibly connect the C and D zone to the Blueberry contact? To that, could you maybe connect Scottie Mine to the C and D zone to the Blueberry contact?
Yeah, I'll answer that. C and D, that's definitely a target that we are looking to connect the two of them. They're, a few hundred meters off of the contact zone, and there's definitely got to be an association between the mineralization there. The connection between that and the contact zone and Scottie, that's a little bit further afield. We do believe that the mineralization is related. We're getting some dates back on the mineralizing event. They are structurally controlled or structurally related in some fashion, but understanding exactly how they're related is unclear at this moment, which means we can't really target that yet. I think one thing that we haven't really highlighted is just that Blueberries and Scottie and all the terrain that we've been kind of looking at right now, it's completely unencumbered. Like, we have 100% ownership in it, and there is no royalties on it. And that's quite a bit different than our peers in the area, particularly SCOT to the south with their streaming deals and the royalties that they have on existing claims. So this ore is pretty unique in that aspect, in that it is free of any encumbrance, and therefore has a bit more value to it and gives us more optionality on financings going forward.
How far along have you gotten with a 3D model? Maybe internally, you still haven't gone too deep. When do you think you'll be showing a 3D model on a webinar? We're working. We have a 3D model. We've had one for the last couple of years that we keep updating with new drill holes. We'll be putting out a video in the next few weeks, just kind of highlighting what our drill plan is for this year and kind of the correlation between those holes that we're drilling and relative to what we drilled last year. And I think that'll give people a good sneak peek at how we're modeling this out and what it looks like in 3D space. Very good. Do you think things will change when the Newmont acquisition of Newcrest goes through? And just larger picture, what's the chess game as you guys see it going on in your corner of the Golden Triangle? What's the play?
That's a tough one because it's all speculation from there. But I mean, Newmont going back the second time, those things don't just happen, but it's a global thing, not just a Golden Triangle thing. But, I would say this, if Newmont did buy Newcrest, there's only one little piece of the puzzle for that whole southern end, or two pieces. That'd be Ascot and I. But it's hard to right now to kind of speculate. Although we just see more and more, and even today we saw the $150 million royalty into the Seabridge, which is just north of me. So, you know, it is rapidly happening. There's been just shy of $6 billion in deals in probably the last 3.5 years. When did GT do that kind of started it? That's an extraordinary amount of money. And I think that's missed by a lot of the market. So who knows? Coryapoo, I think that's a horse that no one really understands. That's the Peruvian miners that put 50 million into the Ascot assets. Those guys have a 300 ounce a year producer and had it there for, I think, 20 years. And from my understanding, those guys are very savvy miners. So $50 million, just a toe dip for that company. And I don't think us as North Americans might understand how big they could be. Anyways, again, I don't have any information, but I just go, it's interesting. I don't think people are looking at that horse quite enough. But, you know, again, we're just drilling. We'll let everybody, the more activity happens, better, because we want to be the last guy standing. So there's less things available. Yeah.
Okay. 17,000 meters meters planned for 2023. How long is your treasury gonna last, or is that's enough?
Yeah. So that's 17,000 just on Blueberry. We're going to do 3,000 meters. We have that stockwork zone, and we still have Scottie to drill. So we told the market we're going to do 20,000 meters. You know, I'm sitting on about $7.5 million. It's not quite enough, Campbell, but we're not too concerned about it. There's a couple little things here happening that we might take one check from one entity. It's not going to be we just have optionality on that. So you'll probably see something happen here, but it'll be extremely strategic to fill that gap. But, you know, yeah, we're in no duress for the ability to raise money. It's, you know, we're kind of getting popular. So anyways, we're going to supplement that a little bit, but it's kind of, you know, again, it'll be very strategic. Maybe with just existing people as it stands. And it's, you know, because it was our bigger shareholders say, yeah, because, you know, the question was, oh my God, we keep having such success with the drill bit, but they really don't see that in the share price. And but we can't do too little, whereas other people are pulling back. But we didn't, like, again, it's a shame, because if I had an 80-cent handle, we'd probably be doing 50,000 meters right now, which is what we'd like to do. But so you might see a little supplement, but it won't be out there in the public, I suspect. So we'll see. You never know, right? Anything can happen in this crazy business, but we're feeling pretty comfortable right now.
Your presentation says gold everywhere. Is there anything else in there?
We've got a bit of silver. It's about a 1-to-1 silver gold ratio kind of overall on the project side. There's some interesting cobalt numbers at Blueberry, but we haven't really pieced that part of the story together yet. Our other claims outside of Blueberry and Scottie are the stuff that's closer to the town of Stewart is actually much more silver rich. It's a polymetallic kind of lead, silver, zinc system. So that's a little bit different over there.
All right. I think we're reached the top of our hour, unless someone did send a note in, you know, maybe you'll sell Blueberry and, you know, keep the other land, you know, and give it spin it out to shareholders or something. I that's all kind of premature, but, you know, Brad, when you're dreaming and looking forward like that, you know, how do you view maximizing shareholder return in the different ways?
Sure.
What's your philosophy?
These are great questions. You know, to see that, I can answer about piecing this off. We have a lot of interest because we have such a big land package. It just gives us optionality. Being royalty free gives us a whole bunch of optionality. Being able to piece off this piece and that, you know, with JVs, and there's certainly these things get suggested all the time. We're really happy at the moment just to keep it a nice big piece, but we're just going to do what's best for the shareholders, again, because there's you know, there's a very few of us that we own quite a bit. We'll just, you know, right now, the bigger shareholders are going, they want to be there for the transaction. They don't care about a nickel or a dime or, you know, to trade the paper, you know, and I think I'm at best, and I think I'm better than this, but let's just say it's 30% retail I don't think it's that much, but let's just under promise. You know, everyone's happy right now just to keep funding us. And then when they say, okay, if all the big partners stop giving money, then maybe we go, okay, let's piece out right now. But it's just a nice, clean piece. There's no real payments. We have two small little payments right in the middle where it says Scottie, but they're, you know, my geophysics bill will cost more this year. So we're no duress, no payments. It's 100% owned, essentially, probably 98% owned or 99, whatever. 7 past producing mines. Right now, it just gives us optionality. Let's see. No one knows what's going to happen with the market, but it just gives us optionality. Scottie's not going anywhere. You know, we survive regardless of how difficult this market becomes.
So, Brad, did you put all this land together? Did you do it with other people? Who put this together?
Just me. I mean, it always takes. I mean, first off, remember, Campbell, I retired. I lived in the area.
Are you from the area?
Well, half my life I lived just off screen in a little town of Smithers. So in my 20s, I was in Smithers. I worked as a bush rat. That's what I was, mining services. I went on, put a suit and tie in Calgary in the early 2000s, .com boom. And then I retired in 06 and went back to Smithers to raise my kids. So a lot of the prospectors and the crazy old rock lickers, I knew them personally. So having that relationship might have helped. And then just anytime there was a downturn, because it was really tough, you know, there was a big head fake 2016, but a lot of guys have been holding on to these lands. Like people have been walking around there for 100 years. So anytime there was a downtick, I just kind of said, hey, is now the time. And even the royalty, you know, I tried to buy the royalty for 5 years and you know, it wasn't until everyone's like puking or bleeding on the street that I went, you know, so we did it quite good. I took, you know, one was another public company that fit well. Again, anywhere from prospectors to, I mostly, you know, claims takers, the whole industry now. So yeah, about 12 different people, but yeah, I did it.
Wow. You know, I mean, Smithers is remote, and looking at the Google Maps here, that's you're committed to the area. Darn.
Well, it was, we were lucky enough to go there, but that's, you know, Seabridge's operation offices in Smithers, and so is Bruce Jack's. And then that's, you know, and I know all those people personally, but it was when we started putting equipment up to build the Bruce Jack power line with the company I'm invested in. I'm like, and I always knew about the Scottie Gold Mine, Don McLeod's first mine. Of course, it's a famous mine, and, you know, Antioch's, I've been to every one of them. There's not a property I haven't been to. That was when I like, okay, and then, again, you know, I walk through the town of Stewart. You know, I've known people 20, 30 years without a doubt. Yeah. So it gives me a little bit of advantage. Yeah.
Yeah, as I said, it gives you a bit of an edge. Very, very good. Yeah. Thank you all for joining. Please share your feedback either now or in the feedback email that you're going to get, or any kind of reach out from the good guys at Scottie. Anything that's on your mind, it's appreciated. Share this content with your friends, spread the word, and you know, everyone here is available to help with answering any further questions or what have you. And a few people wrote in, great job. So very exciting, and very excited to have Scottie be introduced to our network at Amvest as well. And if any of you are in New York, Boston, Atlanta, or Miami, Palm Beach, Boca the week after next, give me a call, because you can meet Brad Rourke in person and his suit. So
you like that, don't you?
Yeah. So,
coming from the guy with purple pants.
Yeah, exactly. But we're cleaning them up and taking them out of Smithers. So
that's
the
right.
Big Apple. So
that's right.
Thank you all very much.
I'm going business, Brad, now.
pass it back to you and Tom to close us. Anything you want to leave us with?
No, I just appreciate everybody's time, and just please consider the story and reach out. If you have any questions, we love to answer questions, and yeah, we're just happy you got to see Thomas. Me, I can wave my arms all day. Yeah, but
all right, right.
Thanks
on.
for tuning
Thanks,
in,
everybody.